Hey, this is Anthony Cesare with SuccessForYourSongs.com, and in this video, we're going to be looking at an example of how to write lyrics before your melody, and we're going to get into the most important detail that you need to be aware of while you're doing that. So if you write poems, or if you write lyrics first, or if writing lyrics first is something that you've wanted to try but haven't yet, then this video is going to be for you. Okay, so let's dive right in with this. Generally speaking, when I'm writing my own songs, I usually write melody first, and then I fit the words into that melody. But in this video, I'm going to show you an example of a song where I specifically used the lyrics first and then wrote melody to that. And there was a specific reason for that, and it was because I wanted to include a quote in the lyrics. So since that was the case, I had to start with those words. So this song is called Daytime on the Moon, and what it's about is seeing things from a different perspective. So the idea being, we always associate the moon with night, but there is a daytime on the moon. And if you could see it from that perspective, then you would see things differently. And this song has pretty dense kind of lyrics in the verses and in the chorus. So my idea for the bridge was to have it sort of sum up in more general terms what the overall song is about. This way, when you go back and listen to the verses on other listens, then they may become more clear because of the bridge sort of making it more clear. So with that, the idea for the bridge became, if we can understand each other's views, then that's how change can happen. That's sort of a sum or a summary of what the song is about. But since I was using this imagery of moon, I wanted to include a couple of quotes from the moon landing in that bridge. Or it's really one quote that I broke up into two. Okay, so here's that quote that I started with. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. So I wanted to incorporate this into this idea of if we can understand each other's, or if we could see things from each other's side, then we can better make change happen with each other. But first, since I knew I wanted to include these words, I needed to know what the rhythm was for them. So in my case, I was starting with a quote. In your case, you may just be starting with lyrics that you already wrote first. So you just have to be conscious of what the rhythm is. Also, just an interesting side note, I was reading an article about the quote that Neil Armstrong said, but the one word got cut out. It's supposed to be one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind, which actually, if you think about it, makes more sense, because if you said one small step for man, that's kind of the same thing as mankind. But I guess that got kind of muffled in the audio, so this became the quote. So we'll go with this. So here's how the stresses in those lines break down. This is how I usually write them out when I'm typing. I'll do it either one of two ways, and I'm showing you both of them here. I'll either put the stressed syllables in bold, or I'll just use capitalized and bold X's for the stressed syllables, and then lowercase unbolded X's for the unstressed syllables. And then I'll usually, if it's a word with more than one syllable, I'll put a dash just to make it really clear, so that as I'm trying to figure out where the stresses are. So giant became gi-ant, mankind, I dashed that too. Now I do have other videos on how to figure this stuff out, but the quick kind of version of figuring out where the stresses in your lines is generally any single syllable verbs or nouns are going to be stressed. So we see that in step and man, leap. Any shorter words like for or the, a, those are going to be unstressed if they're single syllable words. For words with more than one syllable, you can check the dictionaries. The dictionary is going to tell you which words have, or which syllables are stressed and which are unstressed. And you can usually just hear it too. Like giant, that gi is the stressed part. You can just hear it by saying it, giant. Before we move on, I just want to mention that we have a couple of free songwriting cheat sheets for you that can download in the upper right-hand side of the screen. You can just tap that little I and grab those. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel to stay updated on our latest songwriting videos, we've got a subscribe button on the lower right-hand side of the video. You can do that there. Mankind's an interesting one because this is one where it's a 2-syllable word, but both of those words are actually stressed. That's why you put a little pause in between it. So mankind. You don't say mankind or mankind. That would be weird. So both of the syllables in that word get stressed. So here's where you would see the stresses if you looked it up on the dictionary. So there's the strong stress in giant as an example. And then here's mankind. So I guess they're shown in 2 different ways. Here's the both syllables stress that I was talking about. Here you can also stress the first syllable, which I guess it wouldn't sound as silly as I made it. This is what they have.
Mankind or mankind.
So there you go. But anyway, that's how you figure out which words need to get stressed and which ones don't. Because this is a really important part of writing lyrics if you're going to do that first. And this I'm actually showing incorrectly. That shouldn't be there. That was from extra lyrics that I added that we'll get to in a second. But anyway, so I was starting with these 2 lines, and as you could probably tell from them, they're not all that rhythmic. So it was a little bit tricky. So I knew as I was going to write the rest of this bridge, I probably couldn't just like choose one of these lines and then make it the rhythmic motif. I would have to do a little bit more. Because like look at this first one, you got 1 small step, three stressed syllables in a row, and then an unstressed and then a stress. So it just doesn't flow well rhythmically for music. Not that it'd be impossible to do, but I knew this was going to be part of a bigger section. So I just needed to figure out how to get that to work a bit better. And then I have a totally different stress in this other line, 1 giant leap for mankind. So that one's a little bit more rhythmic, a little bit more to work with there. But still, they're very different from each other. So when I'm thinking about coming up with the rhythm of a melodic motif, I just have to be careful about how I'm going to repeat these. So my approach to this was to sandwich those 2 lines in between other rhyme or 2 other lines that do have a matching rhythm. So I came up with this set of stressed and unstressed syllables for this section of the song. So this first line here, stress, unstress, stress, unstress, unstress, stress, unstress, stress. Man, that you cannot say too fast. So that one is the same as this third one. So these 2 are new and not what we saw yet in the Neil Armstrong quote. But they have a decent rhythm to them, so I could use that to carry the rest of the section. Now as far as the 1 small step for man, that shows up towards the end of this line. I ended up adding some stuff to the beginning to give it a little more rhythm. So this is where our original quote stands, or the first half of it. And then here's the second half of our original quote. So I really broke up those 2 parts. This let me put this matching rhythm in between them, here and here. And then I just ended up having to add more lyrics on the outside, which is the stresses that you're seeing here. I think I originally started out without this part and this part, but it just turns out that the way I wrote the lyrics, it kind of needed something else there. And then I had it, just to keep the repetition going, I ended up deciding to make this twice as long. So this whole thing got repeated rhythmically and not lyrically. This gave some more familiarity to that overall section. So now those lines of, actually it wasn't here, so let me take this off. It is the same rhythm, but that's not where I was using the Neil Armstrong quote. So now the quote just appears here and here. And I was able to create a rhythm that repeats 4 times throughout. And then the second line repeats again down here. And then that 4th line repeats again down here. So I created this rhythm for the words. And this kind of happened together. I was creating the rhythm while I was writing, so I didn't necessarily just come up with the rhythm for the first and the fourth lines as is, but I sort of played around with some lyrical lines that may work for this idea. And then once I got something that was pretty rhythmic, then I'd go with that, and then maybe I'd tweak the rhythm and tweak the words with it. But the idea was to keep, every other line the same, so that those lines in between them, where my quotes would be, would still feel like part of this overall rhythm. So basically the idea is when you're writing lyrics before your music, you still want to be thinking about the rhythm part of the music. You might not know what the exact tempo or the pace is going to be of that melody, but just knowing where your stresses are going to hit in your words, you're going to be able to use those to line up with your music. So even if you're writing lyrics first, it's important, very important to keep in mind their rhythm so that they can become musical. And if you've written out lyrics that are kind of all over the place, like if I just would have written the line, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," that on its own would be tricky to get into music. So if you are doing that when you're writing lyrics first, you may have to rewrite your lyrics in a way that makes them more rhythmic before you set them to music. So for this rhythm, these are the lyrics I ended up coming up with for this kind of two-part bridge section. If I can see an opposing view, then there's a better chance mine's welcome too. It's not so easy, but that's how to grow and how the world's biggest changes unfold. Can I do it? I think I can, but that will be just one small step for man. If we all did it, I know we'd find it'd be one giant leap for mankind. So you can hear, just as I was reading that, it had some rhythm to it where the original quote didn't seem to, because of those steps that I talked about a bit earlier. And I should also mention too, I did what might look like cheating here a little bit, but like if you look at this first line, the first stress is on the I. If I can see an opposing view, my line really didn't call for that. But I mean, sometimes these little pickup words that happen before the beat are okay. Ideally, if you could do it without them, that would be best if you have the melody match exactly. But if you can sneak in one kind of pickup word here and there, it's okay. It's when you really start to pack out your melodies and make them different from the rhythm that's already there that you're cheating what you're writing. But, at the same time, ideally, if I could do that without that first word, that would be even better. So take a listen to what that ended up sounding like in the final song, rhythmically, as that rhythm fit into a melody.
Daytime on the moon. If I can see an opposing view, then there's a better chance mine's welcome too. It's not so easy, but that's how to grow and how the world's biggest changes unfold. So can I do it? I think I can, but that will be just one small step for man. If we all did it, I know we'd find it'd be one giant leap for mankind. That bright glow.
So hopefully this makes sense as far as how you can think about writing your lyrics before you write music, if that's the way that you like to write. Keeping that rhythm in mind as you're writing the lyrics, if you're going to do that first, is super important, because that is going to become music, and you want those melodies to be singable. You want them to have some kind of repetition and change as they go through. This is the way I like to do it. You could do it your own way, but as long as you're keeping track of what the rhythms are of the stresses of your spoken word, then you'll be able to put that into your music much more easily. So I hope you found that information useful. If you'd like a lot more ways to improve your songwriting, I've got a couple of free cheat sheets for you that you can download by tapping on the screen here. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel to stay updated on our latest songwriting videos, you can tap our logo on the screen for that. And there's also a link on this screen where you can hear the song that I played for you in this video and the song that you're hearing right now. So thank you for checking this one out. I'll talk to you in the next one.